You need to try and pick off the units as... Look at the shields on the Martin.
Oh my god, the drone's gonna
Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to Crossfire, which I like to call Catfire.
Why?
Because there's actually a noise in the background that sounds like a horde of angry cats.
Really?
I don't know if you've actually heard it before, but for some inexplicable reason, there are cat noises on this map. Actually, pros, I think Select pointed that out as well. When I spoke to him at the last tournament, Select said, oh, there's cat noises. Like, yep, that's why we call it Catfire, folks. But there you go. A little bit of useless trivia for you there. I bring you mOoNan in the red trunks down to the southwest. He is playing Terran versus his opponent, the one and only Drewbie, in the green trunks. He is also playing Terran to the northeast.
That's definitely a question I'm taking to the StarCraft 2 pub quiz. And if I ever make a StarCraft 2 pub quiz, that's going to be my opening question.
What? Which map has a horde of cats in the background? Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's good. I think we could definitely do that. I'm very surprised that we haven't had a big StarCraft quizzes at any of these major events so far. I think maybe it's because we haven't had enough British StarCraft events. If we had lots of British StarCraft events, we'd definitely have StarCraft 2 pub quizzes.
Pub quizzes, curry night, and beer.
That's what I'm talking about. I would so go to that. As a spectator as well, I wouldn't even commentate. I'd just go for a laugh.
I wonder if there's a map with howling dogs, too.
Not that I'm aware of, actually. We'll see. Dogalopolis.
Maybe need to ask Select.
Yeah, Select will know. Absolutely, Select will know. Oh, wow. Right, so we have a best-of-3 series, and of course, Drewbie has taken the first game. We've got mOoNan with the barracks opening up right here, as well as barracks with Drewbie. And is this a smaller map? Certainly. And it doesn't have that many expansion points, so often we see some fairly short games on Crossfire.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I kind of mentioned it in the introduction, that I feel this map is going to favour mOoNan just a little bit, or mOoNan, however you like to pronounce his name.
It's only not mOoMans.
mOoMans.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Moving around the map. Simply because it's a GSL map, and he's obviously been practicing for the GSTL. And obviously, he's going to come up a lot. On the other hand, Drewbie is going to play a lot of ladder, he's going to play a lot of MLG maps, and that's not really in the map pool, so... he might not be too familiar about it.
Yeah, we'll see how he does. He has actually played in quite a lot of recent tournaments that have contained Crossfire, but as I said, it's not an amazingly popular map, certainly. It's not the one that everyone will turn around and say, oh yeah, Crossfire, that should definitely be in the rotation. There are arguments over Crossfire, so it's not one of those maps like Xel'Naga Caverns that seems to be universally accepted. Now, we are noticing that Drewbie has not picked up any gas again.
Yeah, I mean, he's used this build every time I've seen him play so far in the IPL Season 2, and he must feel very comfortable with it. As long as he can defend against any aggression, he should be ahead because he's got the earlier expansion. He's going to have more SCVs. So what he needs to do in this game is literally control the harassment coming from movement, if that's what he's going to do.
That's going to be quite tricky to do. Now, while this map does have a lot of narrow corridors that you can control, if your opponent gains map control over you on Crossfire, then you are in an awful lot of trouble because he can strike from many different directions.
I mean, siege tanks above your natural on the higher ground is almost unbreakable, especially in TVT where it's all about position and very hard to break. So we'll have to see what happens here. We do have a reactor going down on the barracks for mOoNan, and the second refinery too, starting pretty much immediately after the factory. So will he go for some kind of blue flame again, or will he go for Cloak Banshees? Cloak Banshees are really good on this map, simply because there's so much empty space around the back of your base that you can hide there, wait until your opponent goes out, and then come back again.
Near as I can tell, it looks like a very similar build, because he went for the reactor on that barracks the last time as well. But we were puzzled as to the timing of it, because he picked up the reactor later than he started the factories, and he opened up with a single Hellion. So he's going a couple of Marines out of this initially, then going Tet Lab. So we could either see Blue Flame or a transition into Banshees one way or the other. Banshees is looking more likely right now, I'd have to say.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, he's got the starport right next to the factory. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see if he switches that up now. He does have a Hellion in the middle of the map. Gonna head scout, see how many Marines are down on that natural and so on. And we do have the standard 4 barracks after the command center here for Drewbie. And the engineering base should be starting quite soon, because that's kind of the only counter to it is Banshees. And Cloak Banshees especially.
Yeah, and he's able to sneak out of there with 12 HP. Always a nice little move there by mOoNan. We never question mOoNan's micromanagement. It's also always very, very good. And there is a good scan. That's a very solid scan right there by Drewbie. And he will see the Banshee play.
He will see the Banshee play, also see something making the factory. Not quite sure what it is, because there was nothing making from the Tet Lab, so it's kind of hard to predict what that will be. But it is going to be a siege tank.
Yep.
And I'm surprised to see, will he be going for siege tech? I'm clicking on it, hopefully he does it. And it has not been started yet, but going for early siege tanks is great, I think, on this map, especially against Drewbie's style.
It's kind of a curious maneuver, really. I mean, he had the gas that he needed to produce another one, but he wanted to put out another tank first, so maybe he'll follow it up. Right now, he's got the gas for it. Still no siege tank. That is very curious.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess the siege tanks do have a lot of DPS when they're just on the ground, so...
Yeah, but against mass marine, though, I mean, that's dodgy.
I don't know, with the Banshees too, where are the Marines going to focus firing? The Banshee and the tank and the Marines? It's going to be really hard to deal with, especially if he pushes out here.
It's a selection box defense, as I like to call right here. You know, all sorts of variety going on. Big variety pack, and of course the siege tank will be able to chew its way through those. Now, Drewbie trying to focus fire as much as possible, and kind of confused as to where he's going. Banshee's like, well, that was quite the defense. That is impressive.
Okay, Drewbie, build some bunkers because you need to defend now because a large counterattack is going to be coming. Tanks, Banshees, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Marines in total, but not enough to defend against this, especially. And
that's an amazing defense. I really like that. It's very rare that we see these variety pack defenses using a Banshee defensively, as well as a combination of unsieged tanks. But when you think about it, because of the range and being able to use the Marines as a buffer to soak up damage at the front, it can be effective.
And he is researching siege tech now, so it looks like he's going to wait until that's done and then literally just bunny hop down to this natural.
Drewbie. And, whoa. That's all of his SCVs being thrown in right there. And deciding to turn around. That's kind of curious.
I think he was expecting the tanks to be on the top already, but they weren't, so it's a little bit confusing for him. But there's a lot of tanks. He's even repairing now the Banshees, 2 Banshees in total. And siege tech about to be completed, and this is going to be so hard for Drewbie to hold on to.
Unupgraded Marines, and does he have stim? No, he does not. He will have Marine Shield in the next 30 seconds, but of course, if that shelling starts before then, he's going to be in big trouble. There's a freebie, and scouted nicely by Drewbie. Drewbie now really is in a very tough spot. He's going to have to deal with the fact that he's now being bunker bunny hopped right here between these two, and he will have 2 Banshees coming at him and 2 tanks. He's going to charge for it, and he's going to lose so much in the process.
Oh, siege tank's in great location here, doing so much damage hidden away.
Oh my god, it is absolute brutality. It's a massacre going on right here as Drewbie tries to desperately defend. He's able to take out 1 siege tank. He'll take the second, but this defense will hold easily. Great micro as well, hopping back that Banshee on 11 HP, and really this is going to end up being a cleanup for mOoNan if he can continue to reinforce.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to repair now with this SCV, and another siege tank is here, and there's nothing he can do without stim. Even though combat shields is almost equally as good as stim, because it's cheaper, it's faster, it's not enough right now, and these Banshees are going to go to town.
Yeah, exactly. While it will allow him to soak damage, it doesn't really allow him to deal it per se, so I wouldn't really be thinking that Drewbie's in a great position right now at all, and he's certainly not, as you can very clearly see. I mean, he's got 13 Marines, but what is he going to do with them? He's looking for a flanking position. He can't get it. With the Zelnaga Tower held by mOoNan right here, he has excellent visibility, and as soon as, you can see them coming around a mile away.
And even though he's going to try and take the Zelnaga Tower, the tanks there, they're going to shell on top of them. Banshees, 3 Banshees now with that DPS.
No stim for you.
Stim is cancelled. Not looking good.
No stim for you, we say, and honestly, Drewbie is just caught out in the middle of nowhere now. mOoNan pushing in, and that reactor will be shut down. The tech lab's been shut down, so no stim, and of course, very little Viking and Medivac, it's not going to help at all. And that's all of the SCVs coming off the line, and this really is Drewbie's ritual suicide right here, as mOoNan annihilates him very, very easily.
Yeah, this is such a Korean-style build too. It's just so well executed, and completely demolishes Drewbie's style, and it looks like Drewbie's going to die now. I mean, there are no SCVs left in this game, nothing mining, and he's going to have to pull something out of the next game.
16 kills on that Banshee, 12 on that one, and 8 on that one. That is a masterclass in Banshee use in TVT, ladies and gentlemen. There is the GG. Very well played there by mOoNan.
And Drewbie's going to have to change it up in the 3rd game. mOoNan has now kind of understood how Drewbie plays, and it's got a direct counter to it on a small map. Larger map might be a little bit more difficult, but Drewbie's going to have to change something up, I feel, in this 3rd game, otherwise he's going to drop the series.
Yes, I certainly think so. Drewbie's been looking so strong up until this point, but I think mOoNan has finally got his number. We'll see if it was the nature of the map that allowed him to do that, because Drewbie seems to be playing extremely well in the longer economic games, and we'll find out as to whether or not we're going to get one of those. As the final map, I think, is going to be the Crevasse. That could lead to something quite lengthy.
It could do, especially if it's cross positions. It's a lot easier to defend on that map. It's a lot easier to play Drewbie's style, simply because you can get the fast expand within your own base, and the very small choke point is going to disallow any tank pushes, any Marines or so on. So I think that map Crevasse is going to favour Drewbie a little bit, so it should be interesting to see how it goes.
We'll find out how it goes, folks, as we're going to Game 3 very shortly. Don't go anywhere.